Hey, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is the advanced training class for REDCap. A little overview of what we're going to do because we're going to get right into this. I'm not going to waste time showing a bunch of PowerPoint slides. The advanced class is a combination of what you can do with REDCap out of the box, some things that we have not gone over yet in a beginning or intermediate class. And it's also an opportunity for you to see things that we can do for or with you, things that we are doing that are pretty advanced in regarding coding, and I'll get into that a little bit a little later in the presentation, but it is a combination of both. Things that you can probably do now, but things that you would probably need some help with, things that you've never seen before, things that are not a part of REDCap. They're add-ins, and I'll demonstrate a couple of those so that you get a sense of how those work. Mostly, those I will be showing you things just visually so that you'll be able to sort of put in the back of your mind what you saw, and you can reference that at some later time. You'll be able to view this training online so that if you have questions about what you saw, you can go back and take a look. So with that, let me get started. Let me get out of this here. And I'm logged in now to our project that we've been working on in the beginning and intermediate class. You do not have to have this project. You can easily look at any project to do most of what we're talking about today, as long as you have some kind of administrative rights on it. So the first thing I want to show you is something that comes in handy a lot of times. It's found on the menu, the navigation menu on the left, and it's called logging. You should see it somewhat in the middle there, just logging. And when I open that up, what this is a complete history of every single thing that has been done to your project. So there have been situations where somebody has asked if a record was missing, or did someone who entered this record, or something like that. This logging window can be filtered. You can filter it, for example, if we just look for records that were created, just records created. We can look through here, see who created these records, what date and time. In this case, this was a survey respondent. In the other cases, these were created by me. Shows you the record number and actually all the data that was entered. So should you have a question about whether a record was entered or not, if you're missing a number in order, in sequence for your record status dashboard, you might poke around in the log, see if anything happened. Somebody added a record, then deleted a record downstream. But you would be able to see all of that in this log, so it comes in very handy. You can filter it by date, so if your study is very long over periods of time, you can look and drill down on specifics, and also look for a certain user and see what exactly they have done on your project. So that's the log. We talked in the intermediate class about the code book as being a type of data dictionary. However, we're going to talk about a different kind of data dictionary today. I'm going to open up the link for the dictionary, which you can get on the left. If you're in Project Setup, you'd be able to see the Data Dictionary tab, or if you're just in the Project Setup tab itself, the Data Dictionary button is found right next to the Online Designer. So any one of those will take you to the Data Dictionary. So here we are at the Data Dictionary. So the Data Dictionary is the complete architecture of your project. So it has nothing to do with data, but it has everything to do with every instrument, every field, every alignment, branching logic, and all of that. So we're going to take a look at this. I'm going to go ahead and download my current data dictionary so you can see what we're talking about. And I'm using Chrome, so it downloads to the bottom left. If you're using Firefox, it'll be up at the top, and Explorer will ask you to run it. So here we are. It's just an Excel-looking spreadsheet. It's actually what's called a CSV file, common delimited, but it opens in Excel. The first column is all of your variables. The second column is your form names. And as you can see, so all of these things, here's your field types and labels, choices that you've indicated that you want for each one of these field types. Everything that we built so far in class is held in this data dictionary. So what's the value of this? Well, let's say you want to make some kind of bulk change to your project. So you've decided after the fact, now you've seen what left vertical or left horizontal justification looks like. We're in column N here with the custom alignment. And you've decided that you're going to primarily be working with people on a tablet or a phone, and you want to change all of these alignments, and you don't want to have to go to every single one. You could have 100, 200 different fields. If you wanted to apply a change to all your fields at once, I'm just going to grab this left vertical. This is left vertical, this is right horizontal. It's easy to see, there's only 4 options, but I'll go ahead and grab this and copy it, and I'm going to just stick it in my first field. I'll put it in all of them here, and then just copy them all down through my whole project. Okay, and then I'm going to save this, and I'm saving it as a CSV file. All right, so it's going to prompt you to see if that's what you want to do, because it says you may lose some things. Well, you must use CSV files if you're going to use any kind of import or export with REDCap. So I've saved it as a CSV file. I'll go ahead and close this, and it's going to prompt me again if I want to save it. You've already saved it once, so you don't need to save it again. That's not necessary. It'll just ask you to rename it. So we have the data dictionary now. I'm going to come to the area where, and it's on the same page, I'm going to upload the data dictionary file. So I'll choose the file. I'll come to where I saved it, which must be downloads. Hopefully, there we are. So here's my download of the data dictionary, and I'll open it up, and it just says, you know, this is the file. You can't upload the file until the name shows up, so if you have a very large data dictionary, give it a second to populate. Once you click on upload the field, or upload the file, you should get this green banner that says it was uploaded successfully. But nothing has happened until you commit your changes. As soon as you click on commit the changes, you'll get the green banner that says the changes were made successfully. So let's just take a look at our designer. I'm going to go with that up on the top left, grab that link from my designer, and I'll open my screening form. And as you see, everything is now aligned to the left. So let's just say that you wanted to take an existing project and make some bulk changes, maybe take some fields. Let's say you had 2 instruments and you had 15 fields in each instrument, and you decided you want to put them all together in one. You would take your data dictionary, export it out, and change the name of the instrument to all the same instrument name that you want, save the data dictionary and upload it, and then all of your fields would be in the same instrument. So it's just a quick way of working with bulk changes that you want to make in a project. So that's your data dictionary, and this is what you see. If you remember when we were in our online designer here, and we did a version, we saved the version here, creating a snapshot. Once we create a snapshot and we look at it, we see all of these are data dictionaries. So if you have done your due diligence when you start making a bunch of changes and have created a snapshot before you start fooling around with your project, and you decide you want to go back, or you even want to just look, you can come to your data dictionary and then open it and import it back in, and your project will go back to that point in time. So that's what those version changes are important for. That's where you can use them in a pinch. And if you forget, then as long as you have your data dictionary, you can certainly come to us and we'll be glad to help you take your project back to a point in time. All right, that's the data dictionary. One thing that we haven't touched on yet is the file repository on the left. It's a couple underneath logging, the file repository. If you open it, you'll see that this is a storage area for files for your project. Okay, it's not, in the previous, we saved files on a participant or record level basis. This is saving files to the whole project. So let's say that you had a protocol, you have multiple sites, and you want to post the protocol so the different sites can look at protocols, or maybe SOP, standard operating procedures, and you want to hold those documents in some place where everybody on your team can see them. This is a great place to put them. You can store them. The file repository is a permission-based, as is logging. So if you want to make sure somebody can't see these, then you make sure they don't have file repository permissions, and the same with logging. Another thing that's kind of fun, I'm going to go to this designer. We're going to add a field here to our screening form. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and just add this. So I'm going to add a field here. I'm going to make it a text box. Okay, and I'm going to call this, I want to be able to track the diagnosis of my participant. However, I want something that is standardized, something exact, something that is common across classifications of diagnosis. So I'm just going to put cardiac diagnosis here. And this is because this is a cardiac study. So I'll just put diagnosis here for variable name. Now, what we have not seen before is something called an ontology. Ontologies are groupings of like data types or data itself. So if you click on the drop down, you will see there is one option out of the box, Bioportal Oncology Service. This is a service that's maintained and REDCap attaches to it. Once you've selected the service or the ontology service, you then will find that there are just a ton of different ontologies you have to select from. So in my case, my diagnosis category, a common ontology for diagnosis would be the ICD-10 code. So when I click on this, you'll see that there are all these different ontologies, and you can certainly play with these if you feel like it at some point and scroll through them and see if there's anything that fits your project. But I'm going to go down and find the ICD-10 code. And that is right here. All right. Classification of diseases. And then I'm just going to save this. Now, I can't show you how it works until I actually am entering data. So don't try it in the design mode. But if I open my record status dashboard and open a screening form, and I scroll down to my cardiac diagnosis, now I can start entering a disease or diagnosis, and it will auto-complete. So if I say I've got cardiomyopathy, let's say, see it is already starting to fill in. And if I decide that I just have cardiomyopathy, let's see if I can. Okay, so here's cardiomyopathy just on its own. If I select that, okay, it fills in that diagnosis or disease. And here is the standardized code off on the side. So when you do your export, the code is what will export out. And this keeps your data standardized to the ICD-10 code. And easily under the notes, if we were doing this, I'll save this and exit real quick, you might even want to put on that field, let me go back to the designer and screening form and go down to the ontology, and in these field notes you can put ICD-10 code and save it. And then when you look at your data entry screen, you'll be able to know exactly what you're looking for here and what this is going to show you. So this is ontologies. Now, they're very powerful. They're very handy. The one thing that I'm not going to demonstrate, but I want you to be aware of, we are going to talk about something called external modules today and the power of those external modules. One of those external modules allows you to create your own ontology, which is why there's a drop down there, and the default shows up. But if you start adding your own, so I've had situations where somebody wants just a specific list of drugs, let's say, of a specific type, that they want to be able to select all those, and they may want a code of some kind. It's a great way for you to create your own ontology of drugs that you want and then have them show up in that drop down. So those are custom ontologies. On the left, there's something called alerts and notifications. Now, if you remember, when we were looking at surveys, go back over here to the designer for a moment, and you wanted to be notified of something. I've taken the survey off of here, but there was a button here that allowed you to notify yourself when, or one of your team members, when a survey came in. Well, there's an advanced feature that has been added actually in the past 6 months called alerts and notifications. There's always been a need and a desire for users to want to be notified of certain events within their project. So the first link here on your menu is alerts and notifications. So the alerts and notifications, and by the way, I'll just mention that, again, we do a Thursday support session from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And in those support sessions, we highlight an aspect of REDCap, whether it's a new functionality or an external module. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a bit. However, there is all the presentations are videotaped through Zoom and are posted on our website in the videos. One of those is an in-depth look at alerts and notifications, because this is something that is very commonly used, very powerful, and of interest to a lot of investigators. But I'm just going to give you a quick overview, and if you want something more in-depth, please watch the online video that we have posted on our website. It is under the videos on the menu on the left, and then you can find alerts and notifications. So you can see here that you can customize a lot of your alerts. You can decide what is going to trigger the alert. It isn't just whether you've got a record, but you can actually decide if a certain field it has been entered. You can pick the instrument that the field is on, and then what you want to do with the alert. Do you want to send something immediately to someone, and how often do you want to send it? And then you configure the message settings here as far as who the email is going to go to. You can also notify people who are not part of your project. So you are, in the past, you've always been limited to only notifying people that are associated to your project. If for some reason you wanted to notify someone outside of your project of an event, you do have the capability, because this alerts and notifications is far more customizable than anything that REDCap had 6 months ago. So this is a great tool if you want to notify someone in your team of an event. So that's alerts and notifications off on the left there. I'm going to go to my designer here for a moment and introduce something. I'm going to go to my EKG form here for a minute. So when somebody enters data in this EKG form, 99% of the time, the date is going to be today. So it would be kind of nice if that date just automatically populated, right? So there's just like a default that automatically shows up, maybe helps a little bit in the time of the data entry. So I'm going to go to my editing of this field and try to introduce you to action tags. These really can make you look like a programmer and are very powerful. I would say always select the reddish button for action tags to create your action tag. So I'm going to click on that. Here's a list of all the out-of-the-box action tags. So notice you can do things like set a default for a field. You can narrow the number of characters that are added to a field. You can hide instruments. You can hide them in a survey. So if you wanted to hide a field, let's say you're doing an instrument and you are totaling. You're doing a summary of your data at the bottom, and when the survey participant has finished their entering, you don't want them to see the total at the bottom for their results. You want to keep that to yourself so you can decide, well, I want that hidden only on the survey, and then you'll be able to see it just fine. We're going to come down and we're going to say, I want today's date placed in there. And again, you can look through all these things and find out. You can have read-only fields. I'm going to click on the add for the today, and you're just going to see it light up for a second, and then it's going to go away, and you're not going to kind of know if anything happened until you close this. And as soon as you close it, you'll see the at today is in there. So if I save that, and then I look at my record status dashboard again, and I open up an EKG, notice that it automatically populates with today's date. So there's lots of power in those action tags, a lot that you can do with that. There are other things for us to see, but as this is an advanced class, I really want to expose you to external modules so that we get this out of the way and you've actually seen. There's a lot of other things for us to see, but I want to show you some of the things that you can add into your project. One of those that I think is the most utilized, if I look at my designer here a minute, and I look at my screening form. So up until external modules came about, which was maybe a year ago, if you had a project and you wanted to be able to have your survey participant view your questions in a language of their choice. So let's say that you were working with primarily a Spanish-speaking population and some English-speaking, and you wanted to be able to show the questions, because if someone is only speaking Spanish, they're not going to understand the default English questions that you have there. So you want multiple language option. In the past, what had to be done was you could create 2 instruments, one in English, one in Spanish. The problem with that would be that even though they are the same question, the variable would have to be different because you can't reuse your variable. The second option would be to try and have one instrument and one question above the other, and then through branching logic, have one question hidden if they select Spanish and another question hidden if they select English. But you're still dealing with the same problem of having 2 variables. And the final way that I've seen, and this is reasonably popular, is you put the English and the Spanish in the same label. One thing we've not really mentioned is that when you do a label, you can use rich text editors now. This is another relatively new feature. If you turn this on, now there's a whole set of word processing tools available to you, and you can bold them or change colors or underline them, change the background color of the text. But one of those things is that you can change the color of the text. So they would have blue text for Spanish and black text for English. But that gets a little bit mixed up sometimes. When you look at it, a little confusing as to what you're looking at. So an external module was created that you can plug in. External modules are something that you request. And again, I will point out to you that if you want to see all the different external modules that we have available, they are on the website, and you can scroll through here and see all the different kinds of things that we have. But the first one I want to demonstrate is this multilingual module. All right. So with the multilingual module, I have a little project here just so you can see how this works. I mostly want to expose you to a few of these so that you get a sense of the power. We're not going to go into actually putting these all together. There are videos, however, out there so that you can learn a little bit more about these if this is something you want to use. However, the multilingual, once you have requested an external module, on your navigation menu on the left, you'll see there's a link for external modules. If you click on it, you'll be able to see what external modules are in your project. In this case, I have a multilingual here. Sometimes you will see a configuration option, and sometimes you will not. If you see a configuration option and click on it, then it gives you a chance to configure a few things if you want. So I just want to show you what this looks like. This is set up as a survey, okay? I'm just showing you how it appears to someone who is taking the survey. First, I'm going to open this public survey, and notice that you get an option to decide which language you want to show. And so I'll start with English. My questions are in English, but my button persists. If I change that to Spanish, my questions change in Spanish. So how that works is when you look at your designer and look at your instrument, instead of writing these labels twice, once you've enabled this module, you will be able to find that you can create your question in the different language. And you decide what languages you want. You identify that yourself. So if you want Norwegian, you can put Norwegian. The only thing is you have to translate your own questions into these different languages. REDCap doesn't automatically translate them for you. So that's the multilingual module, and if somebody was just doing regular data entry, and wanted to enter their data when they add a new record and open up one of these instruments, the button is here, and so they can change to the language if they're just doing data entry. So again, we have some projects that take place in Mexico, and they are native speaking Spanish. That's their first language. And I mentioned in the first beginning class that you can actually change the whole appearance of your REDCap screen to a different language. This is how you change the actual instruments to show questions in a different language, okay? If you change the whole REDCap look to a different language, of course, REDCap translates all that for you. You don't have to create that. But for the forms, just make sure you know every field you have to translate yourself. All right, another one I'd like to just show you. This is a way of taking your instruments and your fields and taking them and making them horizontal instead of vertical. This is called Shazam, which is more of a programming tool. So let me just go back to my drug study in a minute. I want to introduce you to the way that you can talk to your fields by using something called HTML. HTML is a web programming language, and it allows you to do a lot of things that you can't do normally. So and HTML is something you can look up on Google and find all kinds of different ways of doing things. I'm going to go into my header here, all right? And I'm just going to attach a little piece of HTML code to center my header, all right? And again, this is meant to be something that if you do not have any programming skills at all, that's fine. But I have added that little centering text, and now my header is centered. So we actually have in our projects, if you go to a new project and use the templates, all right, so it lights up these windows. Notice that there is one for HTML examples. So if you want a list of HTML examples that you can reference, then come here and look at the HTML examples and make a project out of it. What you will see is something that looks like this. All right, and what you want to do, well, first what you want to do is look at the designer, right? First, we have some banners. So we go from very basic, show you how to change the color, right? Then we move into something a little bit more esoteric. And all of these are something that you can just copy and paste and plug into your project if you want. So if you see something that you like, you look at the design, and granted, this looks very challenging, but all you're doing is copying this, pasting it in your project, and then finding the verbiage that you want to change and find that word, that sentence or whatever, and cut it, and then plug in your own. The more you play with this, the more you'll understand it. Again, this is an option for you. If you decide you want to make something look a little bit flashier on an instrument, there are these options for headers. There are also some other options if we look at the designer for labels and text. Now, these were mostly created before REDCap added the option for rich text editor. A lot of this you can do now using the rich text editor, but some of the things like indentations, if you want that, you might want to at least poke around with the text HTML programming that made that field look this way. So all of these are examples of something you can do pretty easily in REDCap. This is just a standard table. I mean, these look fancy, but they are static. They're not pulling in data in these. They're just displaying in different ways. And then there's also a example of some miscellaneous things like lines if you want to put a line across your project. So this is HTML. All of these are examples for you in case you want to do that. This is built using an external module called Shazam, which uses HTML to make it work. All I want you to see is all the power and the possibilities that exist with an external module and the functionality that you want. This is something that one of my members of the team just did and is working on right now, but I just thought it was so nice. I wanted to demonstrate it for you because it's a great example of how far you can go with some of these programming things. Another one that combines two external modules is a project that we're doing for a group that's collecting data in Israel. And as you can see here, this combines multilingual. If you see up here, this is in Hebrew or Arabic. And if you click on the button, it will change the language. It's actually been set up so that if you change the language, the color's changing, sort of as a reinforcement as to what language you're in. And it uses a external module for right to left because they do their language from right to left. So if you look, the question is here on the right, and then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, going from right to left. So again, all I want to impress upon you is there are so many powerful tools to help you do what you want. If you don't see how to do something, please reach out to us at redcap@email.arizona.edu. I'll be happy to have our team work with you and have it show whatever you want. You're not really limited as much as you might think in your design. So let's say that you have a legacy, meaning old data collection method that involved, let's say, an Excel spreadsheet. And you've got like a bunch of data on an Excel spreadsheet and you want to migrate it into REDCap. So there is, the first thing you need to do is create your project. before you can move data into it. You can't just take a spreadsheet and say, here, REDCap, take this. First, you need to create your shell and your fields and the instruments that you want to have placeholders for the data that you're going to import. So I've got my, this is actually just our drug study that we created in class. And I've got all my variables in here. But now I'm ready to add some data. So a quick look, I have on my record status dashboard, I have 4 records right now. So I would want to start entering record number 5. So I'm going to open up an Excel sheet, and this is some data that I want to add. I want to add some more records. I've got their first name, last name, gender, ethnicity, email. You can see what I have. Notice that I don't have every single field that I want to import. I mean, every single field in my project. I don't need every single field. I only need to know what subject number I want to add my data to, and then pick the variables that correspond with that data. If you're doing an import, you will need to make sure that you put your data in the correct format for entry. So in case you have gender and you're collecting data as male and female instead of 1s and 2s, you'll have to clean up your data for import and make sure that it is in 1s and 2s. Same with ethnicity. If in your spreadsheet you have a header for the variable called sex, you're going to have to change it to gender. These variable fields must match what's in your project. Otherwise, you'll get an error. Any variation of this will give you an error. So I'm going to close out of this, And now there is a link on the left side called Data Import Tool. So I'm going to click on my Data Import Tool, and it takes me to a window. And one of the options is to download your data import template. If you do this, you will see the format and the names of the variables that your project will accept. So if you have this, you can take your data and plug it into these. One of the big issues, if you remember, is if you have checkboxes. And if you've been collecting data in your checkboxes and you have them all in one field in your spreadsheet, you will need to add 1s and 0s and translate that out. But other than that, you're just making sure that your variable names match, and you can put your data right in there and delete all the variables that you don't want. That's an option. Once you've got your spreadsheet already, and you can choose a file. I'm going to go to my spreadsheet that I want to import and upload it, and I get a green banner if I've done everything right, and it shows me what data I'm going to be entering in to my project. If you have an error, it will be in this pinkish red, and it will tell you exactly where on your spreadsheet the error is so that you can go directly to it and find where the problem is. If you have problems with data import and you need some assistance, please let us know at redcap@email.arizona.edu. Once you're ready, you click on the import the data. The import is successful. says 10 records. If I go back to my record status dashboard and open it, now I've got all these new records. Okay? That's importing data. So let's talk now that we have some data in there. What about reports? So we did an export. We used this third one down, this data exports, reports, and stats. It's the same link. When we click on it, we did before, we just exported all the data, but now we want to create a custom new report that's going to live for all time until you delete it in your project. So the difference is you're going to create what fields you want to see, how they line up, and then save it, and then you're going to have a link on the left that you can click on and retrieve that data whenever you want. So I'm going to create a new report here. I'm just going to call this test. You can call it anything you want if you're playing along. There's a description here that you can fill in. You can filter this so that only certain of your users can see that the report exists, or whether they can edit it. Once you've determined that, now you will start entering fields. There's a number of ways of doing this. You can, if you know the variable name, you could start typing it in and it will autocomplete. If you don't know, you can click on this once, this button on the right, and it will change so that you can see all the instruments and variable names. However, I find the easiest way is using this quick add button at the top, and I recommend this. If you click on the quick add button, because a lot of times you'll find that REDCap tries to help you out and will populate your report with maybe 10 or 12 rows of data, and you may not want any of them. So it's very easy if you use the quick add to select all or deselect all, right? And once you've decided what you want, then you can come in and select what you want. So I'm going to select gender, date of birth, and ethnicity, and how about I leave it at that. Okay, I'm going to close it. So I've just got this ethnicity, date of birth, and gender. Now, you can also, in step 3, you can filter your data. So if you select, and this does not have to be variables that you're showing, you can select a variable anywhere in your project. So if you wanted only people that weighed over 150 pounds, if you select this weight, you then have operating values. You can say I want it equal to something or not equal, starts with, ends with. There are some different options here. Or you can create advanced logic where you can say greater than or less than. If you need help with advanced logic, let us know. But otherwise, you can do a filter. But one I like is right below it is this live filter. So for here, I'm just going to plug in my gender and my ethnicity so that I can show you what a live filter does. Finally, you can decide what order you want your data to show. Subject number is by default. I'll just leave it that way for now and save my report. Takes you to a window that says, you know, do you want to view it? Do you want to continue editing? I'm going to view my report. So here's my report. I've got all my subjects. The names are showing up. Remember, because we did that little configuration tweak so that when we look at record status dashboards, We can automatically see the names. That propagates into our report. So if I look at my report, I get the names on there. I didn't have to add them. So now I've got gender. I can see the gender. I can see the date of birth, and I can see the ethnicity. So what if I only want to see males? Well, I have created up here something called a live filter. If I use this and say, show me only males, it will filter my list on the fly, and I will get only males. Also, you'll find up at the top, if I remove this filter, you can see how many records have been returned, how many records were queried. And so again, if I select my female this time, I can see that there's 14 records queried and 6 were female. So you can see a number. And then let's say you want to see females that were Hispanic. It will filter it that way. So you can see out of 14 records, 3 meet your criteria. So I really like the live filters. Also, and when you remove a filter, you just click the one in the square bracket. There is an option for stats and charts. It is not very robust or powerful, but it is something that you can play around with and see. For example, here you can see how many females versus males you have, and you can download the image, and you can change the image into a pie chart. But again, very limited. You may be better off exporting your data. You can create your report. And again, the report resides, once you create your first report, there is a link now for that report, and you can click on it anytime. So if I'm in my record status dashboard, decide I want to open my report for the test, I just click on it, and there's my data. That's the difference between creating a report and exporting your data. The report also has a nice feature. If you are building a lot of reports, you can organize them into folders so that you can make sure that you are more easily able to find what you're looking for. Okay, yeah. Yes. The question was, if you made a change in your database, changed a value, would it automatically update in the report? So if the report was open for some reason, let's say you and one of your colleagues are working on the database or on your project at the same time, you have the report open and they make a change while you have it open, it will not be viewed immediately, but if you refresh your data, it would be visible immediately. Okay, so we added some data when we did the import. We added heights and weights, and one of the things that we had on our designer was a BMI. Okay, so BMI gets calculated based on the height and weight, and it occurs after the height and weight has been entered. Now, if you were to change the formula or do an import, and you just would want to check this, a calculated field is triggered when the form is saved. Okay, so if you make a change in a formula, in an equation, okay, nothing happens to the data in that field. That equation does not automatically run for every record in your project unless you open it and close it. So if you had 100 records and decided you made a mistake in your BMI calculation and you changed it, you certainly don't want to open 100 records and close them each one at a time. So there is something here called a data quality link, again, on the navigation menu. And if I click on the data quality, there are a number of options here. You can find where you have blank values or blank values if they are in required fields. This could be really useful for you. Field validation errors, so all these things, and you can create your own rules. But one of these is incorrect values for calculated fields. So if you execute this, it will show you that when you did the import, it did correct the formula. However, if I go back into my designer and change the formula in that calculated field and change it to maybe 705. Okay, notice that it will let you know data has been affected. Go to the data quality page. So if I go to the data quality page now and I take a look at my calculated fields, notice I've got 12 records with errors. If I were to export my data right now, I'd have 12 records with incorrect BMIs. I changed my calculation. Once you do that, come back to the data quality link, execute this. Now you can view and see all the records that are incorrect, and you can fix them just with the click of a button. Okay? And now all the records are synced up with the new calculation. So that's data quality. And if you're using calculated fields and you make any changes, please remember to use that, or you will come out with incorrect data. Let's look at a different type of field here. I have a project where the user is working with a group of nurses at Banner Hospital, and he wants to show them videos, training videos, or videos that will let them watch it and then take a test at the end so that they have documented that they know how to do a certain task. So to do that, he wants to have a video on his survey. So if I come back to my designer here on the left and open up, I'm going to create a new form for this just so I keep things kind of straight. And I'll just call this video, this instrument. Create this. Now, when I come in here, I'm going to add a new type of field that we haven't used before. And that is called descriptive text. So it's the second from the bottom, descriptive text with optional image, video, audio file attachments. So I'll click on that. And I'm going to leave my field label blank. I don't have to have a field label. I do need a variable name. I'll just say video for that. Now, there is an area here for me to embed an external video. So what I usually do is take a chance, go out to YouTube, hope I see something that doesn't offend somebody. And see what we got. All right, well, see what Harry Styles is about. All right, so I'm going to grab this link, okay, and I'm going to come back to my project, and I'm going to stick it in that video area and save it, okay? So now it gives me a little button that says watch video. If I look at my record status dashboard, open up my video option, I can click on the button and watch the video. If I come back to my designer, go to my video instrument, I can change this so that instead of the inside pop-up, it is actually inline. I save it, and now you see it's going to show up, and this is the way that they're doing it for the project I'm working on. And if I go to the record status dashboard and open it up, notice it shows up right away. And you can run it just by clicking on it, just like you would at YouTube or any other video. You can do that with audio files, pictures. There are a number of uses for that. So that is descriptive text. We do a lot of work with putting customized text or things that we want to apply HTML programming to in descriptive text. The one beauty of it is you can talk to it, this field, because it has a variable name. So if you wanted to recover something from it, it does have a variable name. So that is embedding a video. Along with this, I should probably talk next about a feature called Twilio that you can add to your study. So I'm going to go back to my project setup, and you will see what this looks like. Bless you. But you won't see this unless I've turned it on for your project. So, but you can see it here. Twilio SMS and voice call services for survey. So let me tell you a little bit about what this is about. This allows you to make voice calls and send SMS text messages to your survey respondents, and it uses a service called Twilio, which is not a part of REDCap. It is a third-party service, but it is embedded in REDCap for you to use. So you can invite somebody to take a survey and send them a text message, or you can call them on their phone and have Twilio ask questions and have the person on the other end punch their keypad to respond. So to do this, you need to set up a Twilio account because there's a cost for each phone call and message. But let me tell you, the cost is so small. It is certainly worth looking into if you're interested in using text messaging for surveys. Very, very cheap, and Twilio has been a really nice company to work with. They are very, very helpful. In order for you to do any testing, though, you need to have that account set up, and Twilio will be happy to seed your account with a little money so that you can play around with it for free and see how it works. So on a voice call survey, when the participant takes the survey as a voice call, the questions are asked like one at a time, and then the Twilio service uses text-to-speech technology to read the question to the person on the phone. And the person on the phone then can enter a number on their phone's keypad. So only numeric responses can be used because, you know, there's only those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 responses. That's all that it's going to hear. So you can ask questions like yes, no questions, like do you like ice cream? Yes, press 1, no, press 0, or what is your age? Things like that kind of question you can ask, but you can't ask anything that would be text related. That is an SMS survey, which you can do. An SMS survey is a text survey. So when they take that, then the questions are asked one at a time in a text message rather than being read to them. And then the person on the other end has the flexibility of typing in answers or in any kind of alphanumeric way for a survey. Just so you know, SMS is not considered secure form of communication, so you may not want to administer surveys as SMS conversations if the participant is going to be submitting any protected health information, unless you've been granted special permission from the participant to do so. Now, there's also a type of messaging called MMS, multimedia, which is the video. Now, the project that I mentioned before had that's working with Banner needed a couple things that any kind of text situation would not address. This person wanted to be able to send a text to a nurse and have them fill out the survey. However, it had to be secure, and he wanted them to watch the video. So to satisfy that situation, we created the project. We had the video embedded, and then the nurses are sent a link to their phone with the message, an SMS text, but it only says, you know, please click on this link to take this test or do whatever. And they click on it, it takes them directly to REDCap, which is then a secure connection, and they can then watch the video and see everything that they want and answer the questions securely, and there's no compromising any of the security that's required by the hospital. So that is Twilio, in case you ever want to do something like that. We have a number of projects that use Twilio. Question? MMS is not available in Twilio. MMS is available in Twilio. So if you go online, you'll see, and you research Twilio, you'll see that MMS is supported by Twilio. However, REDCap at the moment is not supporting any kind of MMS communication in connection with REDCap. Okay, so one of the things that I want to show you in this class and demonstrate is our mobile app. So the mobile app is a method by which you can collect data in remote areas that do not have internet access. So we are using this in a lot of places, but for example, we're using it in Africa to collect data. We're using it in some remote areas in Mexico. We have been using it in northern Arizona to collect data about water samples from areas that do not have internet access. So that is how you use the mobile app. You will load the mobile app onto your phone or your tablet. It's not something that you put on a laptop. It lets you collect that data remotely, and then it syncs back to your project. Now, what I want to do is show you how you set up a mobile app project. And I'll walk you through the steps. I'm going to try and show you this on the video, on the Zoom. And I'm getting that ready on my laptop at the moment. So I'm saying laptop, but just letting you know that I'm using an emulator. It's an Android emulator to show you how this is going to work. So my emulator is firing up. While it does that, I want to show you on your project. We're going to use this at the project here and set it up for the mobile app. There's a link on your navigation menu called REDCap Mobile App. If you click on that, it will walk you through everything you need to do to set up your mobile app. So the first thing you kind of need to do within the project itself is generate what's called an API token. So the API token is something, it stands for Application Programming Interface Token. It allows other types of programs to connect to REDCap directly. So we have people who have created API tokens, not through the mobile app, to integrate with stats programs like R, and they can talk back and forth between REDCap using the API token. But in this case, you need one for the mobile app. So you click on Generate API Token. All right, when you do, it takes you to this screen, and it will create a QR code for you. The QR code you'll then flash once you have your app set up on your device, on your tablet or your phone. And I'm going to be using a device that can't get the QR code, so I can click on that link and have it create an initialization code, and that's what I'm going to demonstrate to you now. So hopefully all of this works. We had a problem last month with this, and I think we've got all of those resolved. So here I have, you have to imagine yourself on your phone or your tablet without the intent of playing all these different games. This is an emulator, so it starts with some different things. But I've just used Google Play. You could use your iPhone and download your app, or your iPad, pull the app onto your device, and here it is showing up. So when I click on it, it will start the REDCap mobile app, and I'll walk you through how to set this up so that kind of gives you a head start if it's something that you want to do. So let's give it a second. It'll load here. There we are. So this is the first screen you're going to see. It'll then go on its own to the option for you to agree to the mobile app terms, which of course you'll agree. It does explain information down below here. So I'll agree to the terms. And now it takes you to a screen where you're going to create an admin name for your tablet and a username for a data collector. So you can, as an administrator, control a bank of tablets that are out in the field and be the only one that can really control the security of them while somebody else is out there using the tablet and entering data. For this, you need a PIN number, so I'm going to enter an admin PIN number, and then one of my users for my project, and then their PIN number. Again, this is fairly self-explanatory at this point. The real beauty of this comes for the person that administers the project. There is so much functionality in this, and how you can control your tablets, and in case one gets stolen or lost, how you can immediately turn off all the features here, and it will make any data that's been held here. It is encrypted and secure, so there's no worry about that, but the tablet becomes unable to connect to the project after it's been lost or reported stolen. So I'm going to add this admin and user, and okay. Takes you to a screen that asks you for my projects or to set up a mobile project. So I want to set up a mobile project. First thing it asks me is to scan the QR code or put in that code, and I need to switch screens here for just a moment. And I'm going to put into my tablet ACCKL 7, 6. Okay, so I've put that into my tablet. Now submit the code. So it's automatically going to know right away what project you're talking about, because that code links that study directly to your tablet. So you know your user, you know your project, it's just confirming this is the one you want to add. And for what it's worth, you can add a number. If you have 4 or 5 projects using the mobile app, you can add them all to your tablet, so you can just go from one study to another, or one project to another, if that's what you want to do. So you have these options for your records. I'm going to download all 14 records so you can see what it looks like. And it will walk through this, and you'll see the progress bar. And now the existing data is being held in my project. Okay, so if I go to collect data, I'll be able to select my instrument and then decide if I want to make a change to one of my existing records or create a new record. So I'm just going to add a new record. And notice that all of your options are available to you, and your matrix, and you're going to decide whether it's complete or incomplete. I'll leave this incomplete at the moment, and I'll save this record. Okay, the record's been saved successfully. Now, if I look, I can see that there is a new record here. And if I look at my PC, okay, and I come and I look at my record status dashboard, notice I only have 14 records, whereas I have 15 in my tablet. So now I want to synchronize this list up. So come back to my tablet. And I'll use the arrow up at the top left here and go back. And I'm back to my screen here. And now I want to send my data to the survey, or to the server, right? Send my data to the server. I'm going to send all my data. And I'm going to say, yes, it can access my location. What this will do is provide in your project a location of where the data was downloaded. And as an administrator, you can see where your coordinator was when they did the download. It's a nice feature. I know we have one individual that's very, very skilled with the mobile app, and if you get involved with the mobile app and have questions, I would redirect you to her, because she is uses the mobile app in many locations and with many individuals. So I've done all of this. The sync is complete, and if I click on my options, I'm just going to return to my project. Okay, so I'm now ready for other actions here, but if I look at my PC and I have my records here, and I come up here and I refresh my screen, got my 15th record here now, and there's my aerial fish. So now I've been able to synchronize my tablet from out in the field where I collected my data and sent it back to my project. And all this was done securely through the encrypted connection of REDCap. So that's the mobile app. And if you do have questions about setting up a project with the mobile app, please just let me know. redcap@email.arizona.edu, and we'll be happy to get that set up for you. Okay. Let's see here. Where am I? Right. Actually, we've gone through everything really well. The one thing I would like to just reiterate is these 1 o'clock calls that we do on Thursdays. Like today, we're going to be demonstrating something that's really pretty neat that shows you some functionality that you would not necessarily be able to probably figure out on your own or create. It uses an external module, but what it does is allow you to create like a nested menu of options directly underneath the checkbox. So normally you'll have a checkbox, and if you have branching logic, things will appear below the list of all the checkboxes. But in this case, we've created a method by which you can click on a checkbox, and then immediately some branching logic will show you radio buttons underneath it. So it's pretty neat, and you can watch it today. I'm not sure if we're also demonstrating that Shazam, this piece. I'm going to suggest it, see if we can show you some of this today, because I think we'll have the time. So that's it for this class. We're going to finish a little early. I have to be out of here. There's another group coming in here shortly. So if you have any questions, please send them to me and be glad to answer them. Otherwise, thank you all for attending, and I'm going to go ahead and shut this session of class down.